For money, I climbed into the bed of NYC tycoon Leo Vance. For over 1,000 nights he always found new ways to torment me. The one that got away, his childhood sweetheart, came back to the country. So secretly pregnant, I skipped town. I thought we'd never cross paths again. 5 years later, my daughter's kindergarten teacher called to tell me she was missing. I searched for what felt like forever until I finally spotted two figures, one big and one small, at my front door. My daughter was sucking on a lollipop and she mumbled, "Mommy, this handsome man says he's my daddy, but didn't you say my daddy was dead?" That night the man pinned me down, asking again and again, "Tell me, who exactly is dead?" I was wrong. "It's me. I'm the one who's dying." Staring at the test results, I couldn't process them. I asked the doctor, "Am I really pregnant?" "Yes, you're 2 months along." 2 months? It must have happened that time in the car. It was raining that day, and I didn't have an umbrella. A kind male colleague offered to drive me home. Just as I was getting out of his car, I ran into Leo Vance, who had just gotten back from a business trip. He was usually stern and never cracked a smile, with an icy keep your distance vibe. But that night his face was dark, absolutely terrifying. He yanked me into his car and kissed me fiercely right in front of my colleague Chloe Reed. "I'm not dead yet. Are you already looking for your next meal ticket? What, am I not enough for you?" My face flushed and I scrambled to cover his mouth. "Stop it." But his gaze fell on my rain-soaked shirt and his eyes grew even darker. He put me through hell that night. When I finally got out of the car, my legs were like jelly in the end. He was the one who carried me upstairs. For the past 3 years I've known my place. The title of Mrs. Vance was never going to be mine. I never dared to dream of it. But I never imagined that even after being so careful I'd still slip up. Just as I walked out of the hospital I got a call from Leo. "Where'd you go?" I lied instinctively. "Out shopping for your birthday present." He chuckled on the other end of the line. "Another tie, Chloe. Can't you be a little more creative?" I took a deep breath and asked him, "Then what kind of present do you want?" After we hung up I looked at the lingerie photos he sent and gasped. So revealing. If I wore that I wouldn't survive the night. In the end I didn't buy the gift he was hoping for. Since he didn't like ties I picked out a leather belt. It was his money anyway. When I got home he wasn't back yet. Today was his birthday. Usually he celebrated with his childhood friends, figuring he'd be back late again. I ate dinner by myself, took a shower and got ready to turn in early. As I stepped out of the bathroom a pair of arms wrapped tightly around me from behind. My body went stiff, but I relaxed when I recognized his familiar scent. Leo buried his face in the nape of my neck, his warm breath sending shivers down my spine. Strange, why was he home so early today? As if sensing my distraction he suddenly bit me hard. Ouch, is he part dog or something? I was furious but didn't dare say a word. I just whispered that it hurt. "It hurts, deal with it." As he spoke he lifted me up and tossed me onto the bed. For 3 years he had never been gentle in bed. Tonight was no different. My robe was torn open, and just as I was losing myself in the moment I heard him ask, "Where's my birthday present?" I pointed to the nightstand after opening the box and seeing the belt inside. Leo let out a soft laugh. He raised an eyebrow. "What, you want to tie me up with this?" Looking at his cold, handsome face I instinctively shook my head. How would I dare? What was my place? Just his secret lover, hidden from the world. "Good that you know." With that Leo picked up the belt and deftly tied my hands together. The rough leather chafed uncomfortably. Even more humiliating was the position I was in. Leo, no. Before I could finish his kiss silenced me. He was always like this. In business he was decisive and ruthless, feared by all. In bed he was brutally dominant, always making me cry. That night my throat was raw from screaming. When he finally got up I realized his entire back was covered in red scratches from my nails. After he showered Leo pulled me into his arms and fell asleep quickly, but I lay awake all night. I first met Leo Vance 3 years ago. He had donated 2 new academic buildings to my university. On the day of the dedication he was invited to the ribbon-cutting ceremony. I was working as an event hostess that day, lost in thought. I accidentally spilled champagne on him. The dean's face fell and he told me to apologize to Mr. Vance immediately after I got off the stage. An older student told me just how powerful the man I'd offended really was. As the richest man in New York, if Leo Vance stomped his foot, the whole city would tremble. After the event I chased down his car. At the school gate he sat inside wearing sunglasses, his expression unreadable. I carefully explained myself. "Mr. Vance, I'm so sorry about your suit. Could you please tell me the brand? I'd like to replace it for you." His assistant laughed. "Miss, do you have any idea how much one of Mr. Vance's suits costs?" After quoting an astronomical figure the assistant added, "And they're all handmade, custom orders from Italy. You can't buy them off the rack." In that moment moment I wanted the ground to swallow me whole for my own audacity through my extreme embarrassment. I saw Leo take off the jacket and say coolly, "It's dirty, just throw it out." The car window rolled up in my face like a gate closing between our two different worlds. I thought that would be the end of our interactions, but a few months later, my mom's illness relapsed and she needed a huge sum of money for surgery. We'd already borrowed from every relative we had over the years. The university had also helped me many times. This time I was truly desperate. Seeing my mother in so much pain, I clenched my jaw and rushed straight to the Vance Holdings headquarters. For some reason, he actually agreed to see me. When his assistant led me in, Leo was sitting behind a massive, expensive desk. His legs crossed. After hearing me out, he looked at me through the rising smoke and asked meaningfully, "You want my help, and what, Miss Reed, are you willing to give me in return?" "I can write you an IOU. You can set the interest rate once I graduate and start earning money. I swear I'll pay you back, principal and all." But he just laughed. His heated gaze roamed over every inch of my body. A slow, invasive crawl. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "I have more money than I know what to do with. As for what I want, Miss Reed is a smart woman. Why don't you take a guess?" With that, I was dismissed. Before I left, his assistant gave me an address. "Be there at 8 p.m. sharp." Mr. Vance said he won't wait. At 22 years old, besides my body, I had nothing that night. Wearing a white lace nightgown, I climbed into his bed. He tore the nightgown to shreds, and along with it my last pathetic shred of dignity, and so it went for 3 years. We had an agreement I would be his for 5 years. During that time, I had to be on call 24/7 and could never refuse any of his requests. When the time was up, he would set me free, but my mother didn't make it that long. She passed away during my second year with Leo. Thank God she never knew that the daughter she had been so proud of her whole life had sold her body for money. I finally fell asleep around 4 or 5 in the morning. I had a series of nightmares, dreaming of my mother one moment and Leo the next. In my dream, he dragged me to the hospital with a cold expression, forcing me to get an abortion. "Chloe Reed, you should know your place," he said. When I woke up, it was already noon. I thought Leo would be gone, but as I walked toward the balcony, I heard him on the phone. On the other end, I could hear his friend Connor's voice. It was noisy on his side, so Connor was speaking loudly, and I heard every word. "Leo, Sophia's already here. Where are you? Still at home? I'll be there soon." "All right, hurry up. Everyone's waiting for you to cut the cake. By the way, did you get rid of that little canary of yours? We can't let Sophia see her or there'll be hell to pay." "Don't worry, I know what to do." After hanging up, Leo went downstairs, probably to meet Sophia. I quietly washed up and went to the first floor for a bite to eat. To my surprise, he still hadn't left. Leo was leaning against the sofa, smoking, lost in thought. After a moment's hesitation, I walked over and straightened his tie for him. We were so close, our breaths mingling, and his eyes never left my face. Before he left, he said softly, "Don't go out today. Wait for me to get back. I have something to tell you." "Okay, what else could there be?" He was probably going to tell me to get lost. After all, the woman he loved was back. 2 hours later, Sophia posted an update on her social media. She shared a photo of a cake and a picture of herself with Leo. The caption read, "I'm back, and it's like nothing ever changed over the past 3 years." I had heard a lot about Sophia. They said she and Leo were childhood sweethearts. The one he had loved for years. This very mansion we were in had a huge room reserved just for her, and the reason Leo had donated to my university was because it was Sophia's alma mater in the photo. They were both stunning with brilliant smiles. I had to admit they looked perfect together. In terms of family background and looks, they were like a prince and princess from a fairy tale. As for me, I was just a substitute, for while Sophia was abroad, there to satisfy Leo's physical needs. That night, I waited on the living room sofa until midnight, but Leo never came back. The next day, news of him and Sophia being seen at a hotel was trending online. As I read, a wave of nausea hit me and I rushed to the bathroom to dry heave. After washing my face, I looked at my pale reflection in the mirror. Suddenly my mind was made up. I had to leave, otherwise I'd become a shameful other woman, and my child would live their whole life in shame. In the last 3 years, I'd thought about leaving countless times, but I never expected the day to come so suddenly. I packed my things quickly. Aside from my ID and a few personal items, I didn't take anything else. Leo had been incredibly generous over the years, and I had saved up a lot of money. It was enough for me and my child to live on for the rest of our lives. I told the housekeeper, Mrs. Gable, that I was going to visit my mother's grave and that she didn't need to make dinner for me. The driver offered to take me, but I refused. The taxi sped down the road, first passing Vance Holdings, then my old university. While waiting at a red light by the campus gate, I saw Leo's Maybach in the distance. Almost instinctively, I looked inside. In that fleeting moment, I saw Sophia snuggled intimately against Leo's shoulder. A pang of sadness shot through my heart. I had been hesitating, wondering if I should at least say goodbye to Leo. After all, he had helped me so much when my mother was sick. But in that instant, I suddenly felt it was unnecessary. Sophia was back. My quiet departure was the best thing for me and for Leo before takeoff. My phone rang. It was Leo. For the past 3 years, I had always answered his calls on the first ring, but today I let it ring and ring. Then I turned off my phone and pulled out the SIM card. I knew Leo's personality. He had his pride. He wouldn't call a second time, and that gave me enough time to escape. As the plane took off, a sea of lights blurred and vanished beneath me, until there was nothing left to see. Goodbye New York, goodbye Leo Vance. A few months later, I gave birth to a girl. I named her Annie. I hoped she would live a life of peace, happiness, and good health. Annie was a sensible child from the start. During the first month after she was born, I got mastitis and had to stop breastfeeding early. She was a good girl, never crying or fussing. When she was 2, she had a high fever for several days. When I cried quietly in the middle of the night, she would wipe away my tears and whisper, "Mommy, don't cry, don't cry." So many times I felt a secret surge of gratitude that I had chosen to keep her. Since my mother passed away, I hadn't felt this happy in a long time. The days of raising a child were busy but flew by. In the blink of an eye, Annie was 3.5. After much thought, I decided to bring her back to the States. I couldn't stand the food abroad anymore, and no matter how long I was there, I never felt like I belonged. Of course, I worried about running into Leo. What if he found out about Annie and tried to fight me for custody? But then again, he was probably married to Sophia by now. Maybe they even had their own kids. He must have long forgotten a fleeting character like me. Besides, New York is a huge city. The places they frequented were worlds away from where I would be. We were unlikely to ever cross paths, and so I brought Annie back to New York, a city I hadn't seen in years. I bought a pre-owned apartment in a good school district. The previous owner's decor was cozy and it was move-in ready. I also rented a space for a flower shop near our building. This way I could take care of Annie and still have my own work. One weekend I received a last-minute order. The customer chose the most expensive bouquet in the shop and asked for it to be delivered as soon as possible. I waited for a long time, but no delivery driver accepted the order. Left with no choice, I had to deliver it myself. The address was in the city's most exclusive residential area, quite a distance from my shop. When I finally arrived, I rang the doorbell for a long time, but no one answered. I was about to call the customer when the door opened, and there he was, Leo Vance, appearing before me so unexpectedly. 4 years had passed. He was thinner, but his features were sharper, more mature and cold. "Who are you looking for?" he asked, hands in his pockets, a look of impatience on his face. "Hello, your flower delivery." I quickly handed him the box. Thank goodness it was windy today, so I was wearing a mask. Compared to the perfectly made-up face I wore every day when we were together, I was completely barefaced now. He probably wouldn't recognize me. Sure enough, he glanced at me, took the box with a blank expression, and closed the door. I breathed a sigh of relief and turned to leave. Suddenly he called out, "Wait a second." I froze on the spot. I wanted to run, but was afraid he'd notice something was wrong. I didn't dare turn around for fear of being recognized. Seeing that I wasn't moving, he started walking toward me from behind. Each step sounded like death approaching. "It's over." Just as I was trying to figure out what to do, someone came out and called his name. "Leo, where are my flowers?" "At the door." "What are you doing out there? Hurry up, it's time to cut the cake." After the girl spoke, I heard a child inside shout, "Daddy, come on, I want cake." After they went inside, I waited a moment, then peeked through the backyard fence and saw into the living room. It looked like a birthday party, and there were a lot of people in the crowd. I saw Sophia. She was flawlessly made up, holding a slice of cake and handing it to Leo. Next to her stood a little boy about 2 or 3 years old. The boy's features were a mirror image of Leo's, so it was true they were married and had a child. I smiled to myself and walked away. After a few days of constant anxiety, I realized my fears were unfounded. Leo didn't show up again, neither did anyone from the Vance family. He must not have recognized me that day. It was for the best. We were from different worlds. After all, one day the shop was swamped with a sudden rush of orders. After dropping Annie off, I was busy from dawn till dusk. By late afternoon, around 4 or 5, I still wasn't done. Reluctantly, I had to call her teacher. "Ms. Davis, could you possibly bring Annie to my shop? I'm stuck here right now." Annie's kindergarten teacher lived in our building, and she had helped me out several times when I was in a bind, but to my surprise she asked quizzically, "Wasn't Annie already picked up by her dad?" "Dad?" A powerful sense of dread washed over me. Could it be Leo? I rushed to the kindergarten. When I got there, Ms. Davis told me that a man had come to pick up Annie in the afternoon, claiming to be my husband and Annie's father. She was going to call me to confirm, but my line was busy. Not only did the man look strikingly similar to Annie, but he also produced a marriage certificate, and so Annie was taken away. Watching the security footage, I saw that it was indeed Leo. I immediately called the police. Just as the officers were trying to contact Vance Holdings, I received a photo. In the picture, Annie was sitting on our doorstep eating a lollipop. It was followed by a text message, "Chloe Reed, come home." I hurried back to my apartment building. A dozen men in black suits stood in a line at the entrance. My neighbors nervously made their way upstairs, whispering among themselves. What's going on? Is it the mob here to collect a debt? Did you call security? Should we call the police? I already did. They said they're here looking for a wife and child. Oh, which young couple is it? I didn't dare say they were looking for me and bolted up to the 3rd floor. As I reached my door, I saw Annie sitting in a kid-sized convertible engrossed in a cartoon on a tablet. Annie, before I could finish, I was grabbed from behind and pulled into a tight embrace. Even after 4 years, Leo could still overpower me with ease. One of his arms snaked around my waist, while the other pinned me between him and the wall. Then his lips crashed down on mine. The kiss was aggressive, filled with anger and a chilling coldness. It felt like punishment for leaving without a word. All those years ago, I pushed against him with all my might, but the more I pushed, the harder he kissed. It wasn't until Annie shouted from the side, "Mommy, what are you doing? You mean he let my mommy go?" Annie scrambled out of her little car and started pounding on Leo's leg. With her tiny fists, he let me go, then bent down and lifted Annie into his arms. When he looked back at me, his eyes were as dark as ink. He sneered, "Decided to come back, did you?" My heart skipped a beat. I ignored him and reached for Annie. "Mr. Vance, please let her go." He raised an eyebrow, his arms not budging an inch. "And if I don't? Then I'm calling the police." Luckily, the officer had given me his number today. Leo laughed, as if he'd just heard the funniest joke in the world. "Fine, go ahead and call. What are you going to tell the police? That a father came to see his own daughter? That's not a crime, is it?" He knew. My face went pale, and I quickly retorted, "You're lying. She's not your daughter." "Oh really? Do you want me to show you the paternity test right now?" It was over. He had come prepared, of course, with his power and influence. Finding out the truth about Annie would have been child's play. As we stood in a stalemate, Annie, still sucking on her lollipop, looked at me with wide eyes and asked, "Mommy, this handsome man says he's my daddy, but didn't you say my daddy was dead?" With Leo's face grim and dark, I opened the door. I told Annie to go play in her room. Once she was settled, I closed the door firmly. Then I turned to the man on the sofa and said, "Leo, we need to talk." Leo looked up at me even though I was standing, and he was sitting. He exuded an air of superiority, just like our relationship for the past 3 years. He was always on high and I was always at his beck and call, but things were different now. He was no longer my benefactor and I no longer had to be deferential to him, so I got straight to the point. "Annie is my daughter and I will not give her up to you. I know your family is very wealthy and will probably hire the best legal team, but I'm not afraid. I am her biological mother. I've raised her myself every single day since she was born, plus I have a job. I believe a judge will side with me." I said it all in one breath, then looked at him calmly, waiting for his reaction. To my surprise, he laughed. "Are you done? You've been rehearsing that speech for a while, haven't you?" He was right. Ever since our accidental meeting that day, I had gone over this scenario in my head countless times. I would absolutely under no circumstances give up the fight for custody of Annie, but Leo's next words left me stunned. "I'm not here to fight you for Annie. Then what are you here for? For you and then to drag you back and continue our previous contract. Allow me to remind you, our agreement was for 5 years. You only fulfilled 3. There are still 2 years left. Don't you think you should pay up?" "Leo Vance," I stared at him in disbelief, then I enunciated each word carefully. "I'm sorry, but I will not be a homewrecker." "What did he take me for?" "Years ago I had to submit to him for my mother's sake. During the countless moments I felt humiliated, I would quietly tell myself, at least he doesn't have a girlfriend, at least my existence isn't hurting anyone else." But what was this now? Homewrecker? Leo frowned. "What are you talking about? You're married, aren't you? Since you have a wife, why can't you just leave me alone?" Now the confusion on his face deepened. "Who said I'm married? Chloe, have you lost your mind?" I couldn't hold it in any longer and let everything pour out. "Aren't you married to Sophia? I know you've always loved her. The only reason you even noticed me in the first place was because our profiles looked a little similar. I saw it all at your house that day. And your son, he really does look like you, so please stop making such a shameless demand." After I finished, he stared at me for a long moment, then suddenly he smiled. The next second, he pulled me forcefully into his arms. His domineering kisses rained down again, leaving me no room to escape. Furious, I hit him over and over, but it was useless. Finally, in desperation, I bit down hard. The taste of blood filled my mouth, but even then he didn't let go, only when I was breathless and gasping for air did Leo finally release me. He wiped his lip and frowned. "Chloe, are you part dog? You're the dog. Your whole family is dogs. Otherwise, why was he sticking to me like a leech I couldn't shake off? Getting bold? Are we daring to curse at me now?" He chuckled softly, then his expression turned serious. "I'm not married and I don't have any children. The kid you saw that day is my cousin's son. And I don't love Sophia, to be precise. I never have." I couldn't make sense of his words. What did he mean? If he didn't love Sophia, could he love me? Impossible, as the thought crossed my mind. He nodded. "Yes, I love you. It was love at first sight back at your university's awards ceremony. You don't want me to fight you for custody of Annie, do you? So you have another option. Marry me. Become Mrs. Vance. I'll give you 3 days. After 3 days I'll be back for an answer." After Leo left, I sat on the sofa in a daze. It wasn't until Annie opened the door and said she was hungry that I snapped out of it and rushed to make her dinner. It was already late, so I just boiled 2 bowls of wontons for us as we were eating. Annie asked Mommy, "Is Mr. Leo really my daddy?" I never thought I'd be asked this question. When she was only 5, after thinking for a long time, I asked her, "Do you like Mr. Leo?" "He's okay, he's handsome, but a little scary. I still like Mr. Weber better." The Mr. Weber she was talking about was William Weber, a middle school history teacher we met once. When I found his lost cat after that, William started visiting my flower shop often. He never said anything outright, but I knew he was pursuing me. I had a pretty good impression of him while I didn't have strong feelings. I did like him. A man who loves animals and flowers can't be a bad person, but now Leo's marriage proposal had thrown me into a state of turmoil. I thought about it all night. The next day, as soon as I opened the shop, Leo was standing at the door again. "What are you doing here? Didn't you say you'd give me 3 days?" "I was afraid you'd run away again." Without another word, he took Annie from my arms and then tried to take my hand. I quickly pulled away and kept my distance. The kindergarten was only a little over a mile from our house. I usually took Annie on my electric scooter, or we'd walk when we got downstairs, and I wheeled out my scooter. "Leo, friend, you take my daughter on this?" I was speechless. "Is there a problem?" "It's too cold, she'll catch a cold." "Get in the car." I glanced at his flashy Lamborghini and refused without a second thought. "No thanks, your car is too cramped. There's no room, Mr. Vance, you should just go." He gave a cold, angry laugh. "Chloe, how did I never notice how sharp-tongued you are?" I retorted sarcastically. "You were my benefactor then, are you still?" My words seemed to make him even angrier. He grabbed my arm and was about to force me into the car when someone stopped him. "Chloe, do you need help?" It was William Weber. He was in workout clothes and looked like he had just finished a morning run. "Mr. Weber, good morning." "Morning." Beside me, Annie greeted him sweetly. "Hi, Mr. Weber, when are you going to take Annie to see the dinosaur fossils?" "Be good, Annie, we'll go as soon as you have a break from school." William patted Annie's head, then turned his attention to Leo by the car. "Chloe, who is this?" "Oh, he's an old friend." The moment the words left my mouth, Leo's face darkened. He spoke, each word dripping with ice. "Chloe Reed, say that again. What am I to you?" After I reiterated that we were just friends, Leo stormed off in a rage. But that afternoon he reappeared at Annie's kindergarten. I ignored him, but he followed us in his car, watching until we went upstairs. His car never left that night. In the middle of the night, I got up to close the window and saw him leaning against his car, smoking. In silence, our eyes met in the darkness, then quickly looked away. For 3 straight days he watched me relentlessly, never letting me out of my sight. On the evening of the 3rd day, he blocked my path, his eyes burning with intensity. "Have you made up your mind? Will you marry me?" Looking at his sharp, handsome features, I belatedly realized that at some point I had stopped being afraid of him. After a moment of silence under his expectant gaze, I shook my head. "No, Leo, the first don't want to marry you." "Why?" "Because our relationship was never equal. 8 years ago, I sold myself to you for $1 million. I had to do whatever you told me to do. I hated how domineering you were, but I couldn't refuse. I hated the way your friends looked at me, but I didn't have the right to talk back. I was your canary, your plaything. You'd toy with me when you remembered I existed and toss me aside when you got bored. You never respected me. So I don't want to go back to you. Every single second I see you, I'm reminded of that painful time in my past. Leo, I'm begging you, just let me go." Saying it all at once felt like a huge weight had finally been lifted from my chest. I quietly waited for Leo's counterattack. Maybe he would be furious, maybe he would explode, but I never expected him to give a bitter laugh. "Chloe Reed, you're saying that those 3 years with me were painful?" Fine, that's just great. I must have been out of my goddamn mind to fall in love with a heartless, ungrateful woman like you. "Don't worry, if I ever show my face to you again, I'm a dog." With that, he stormed off. Annie tugged on my hand. "Mommy, does Daddy not want us anymore?" "Be good, Annie. Mommy and Daddy have their own lives, but our love for you is the same, understand?" "I understand." Annie nodded, then she reached up with her chubby little hand and wiped my face. "Mommy, don't cry." Strange, was I crying? I thought it was just starting to rain. Leo Vance was a man of his word. After that day, he really did disappear. Life slowly returned to its peaceful routine, although Annie would occasionally ask about him. She was quickly distracted by a new toy. Sometimes I would think about the past. If our beginning hadn't been so sordid, would we have had a different ending? The truth is, I did love him once. The love and hate of youth are always tangled together, hard to tell apart. On one hand, I was ashamed that I had climbed into his bed for money, but on the other, I couldn't stop myself from quietly falling for him. He came from an extraordinary background and was the center of attention wherever he went. He was devastatingly handsome, and in his rare moments of tenderness, his long eyelashes would cast shadows over eyes that seemed to hold endless affection. During that time, he not only showered me with money and showed me a world I'd never seen before, but he also held me tight through countless sleepless nights after my mother passed away. Waking up from his own sleep to comfort me in those dark, difficult nights, he was my only anchor. So I once held a secret hope I would sometimes wonder if he might like me even just a little bit, but then 3 years passed with his refusal to ever publicly acknowledge our relationship, and the return of Sophia, the faint flame of hope within me silently flickered out. And now 5 years later he claimed to love me. Who would believe that it was just the pride of the great Leo Vance? A man who had never been abandoned and couldn't stand the thought of it. The weather grew colder. It was a Friday. The sky a dull gray, looking like it would snow that night. The kindergarten entrance was packed with parents picking up their children. I waited at the gate, and when I saw Annie come out I hurried over. I had just taken her hand and was about to ask if she was cold when a wave of screams erupted from behind me. I spun around instinctively. A man had appeared from nowhere. He was holding a large kitchen knife and slashing wildly through the crowd. Several children had already fallen into pools of blood. Parents cried out, trying to rush forward, only to be driven back by his blade. In the blink of an eye he was charging toward Annie and me. In that instant my mind went blank. I wanted to run, but my feet were frozen to the spot, refusing to obey as the knife was about to fall. I instinctively pulled Annie into a tight hug and squeezed my eyes shut. The pain I expected never came. The next second I heard a familiar pained grunt. I opened my eyes to see Leo Vance, who I hadn't seen in so long, appear out of nowhere. He held me and Annie in his arms and smiled. "Don't be afraid, it's okay, Leo, you." Before I could finish he collapsed. Only then did I see that his back was drenched in blood. In that critical moment he had rushed behind me and taken the blow for me. After a brief moment of chaos, the madman was finally subdued by the crowd. Annie was in shock. She let out a heart-wrenching sob. "Mommy, is Daddy going to die?" Unconsciously, tears were streaming down my face. The smell of blood filled the air, making me dizzy. I held Leo tightly, begging him over and over, "Leo, wake up, don't scare me, I'm begging you." The ICU waiting room was crowded with anxious family members. The attacker had been caught and he would face the full force of the law, but he only had one life to give. And today there were 6 dead and 5 injured. 11 families were plunged into grief. They would not be having a happy holiday season. I found a quiet corner and finally managed to get Annie to sleep. Just as I was about to check on Leo, someone sat down in the chair next to me. It was Sophia. Though we had never met, we had long known of each other. Looking at me, she sighed. "I knew it was you. Only you could make him so reckless he'd throw away his own life." I stared at her stunned. "What are you talking about? Did you know, Miss Reed, that I've always been jealous of you? Ever since we were little I knew I was going to marry Leo, so I chased him constantly and didn't allow any other women near him. But he never loved me. In fact, he found me annoying." Finally heartbroken, I left the country in a fit of pique. During those years abroad I kept waiting for him to give in and beg me to come back. Instead I heard that he had you by his side. So I swallowed my pride and rushed back in a panic. That night I thought he was there to welcome me home, but he told me he wouldn't marry me because he had fallen in love with someone else. I cried, I screamed, I even threatened to kill myself. He was afraid of a feud between our families, so he agreed to spend a few days with me until I came to my senses. I thought he would eventually come back to me, that it was just a matter of time, but the next day when he heard you had run away, his whole expression changed. After that his father beat him I don't know how many times over you. He searched for you all over the world, ready to turn the whole world upside down. I tried throwing myself at him, but he wouldn't even look at me. Gradually I couldn't wait any longer, so I married his cousin. I always wanted to see if he was really so devoted that he would live like a monk for the rest of his life for you. This is Leo Vance we're talking about. What kind of woman couldn't he have? And your family is so poor. Besides a pretty face, what else do you have? I don't get it. I really just don't get it." She was right. I didn't get it either. So I had to wait for him to wake up and ask him myself face to face. Leo was seriously injured. I waited at the hospital all night, but he still hadn't woken up. The next day Annie came down with a fever and was delirious. The doctor said the flu is going around, and the hospital was a high-risk place for cross-infection, so I should take her home as soon as possible. I had no choice but to go back first. 3 days later I woke up to a message from Leo's assistant sent in the middle of the night saying he was awake. I threw on my clothes ready to rush to the hospital, but when I opened the door I found Leo sitting on the floor, his face pale. I had no idea how long he'd been waiting there. I jumped in shock. "What are you doing here? I'll take you back to the hospital." "I don't want to go back." "Chloe, go ahead and laugh at me. I'm a dog. Woof woof woof. I broke my promise and showed up in front of you again." I sighed and helped him inside. As soon as he lay down on the sofa, Annie climbed up next to him. Her big eyes were full of confusion. "Daddy, why did you say you're a puppy? Isn't it good to be a person?" Leo's silence was deafening. I stood to the side trying so hard not to laugh. My stomach hurt. "Annie, sweetie, can you go play by yourself for a bit? Daddy has something to talk to Mommy about. When we're done, Daddy will take you to get KFC, okay?" The little girl nodded, and seeing that I didn't object, she happily took my phone and went to her room to watch a cartoon. I poured a glass of water and handed it to Leo. "You're so badly hurt. What are you doing here?" "I was afraid my wife would run away." "Who's your wife? Who do you think?" He gently took my hand and asked pitifully, "Are you still mad at me?" I shook my head. "I was never mad at you. Then why didn't you want to marry me?" "I thought you only proposed because you couldn't stand being abandoned by me. I thought when you said you loved me you were lying." Halfway through my sentence he kissed me again. This time I didn't refuse. After a long moment he slowly pulled back. Our foreheads touched, our eyes met. He asked me, "What else did you think?" Nothing, Leo Vance, I love you. I finally said it. It felt so good. Hearing that he was ecstatic, looking at me in disbelief. Really, you're not just saying that out of gratitude because I saved you, are you? Really? I wrapped my arms around his neck and continued the kiss we had started. I don't know how long Leo's love will last. I don't know how many obstacles we'll face in the future, but at least in this moment I wanted to try. Life is short. You have to seize happiness when you can. For the past 5 years I dreamt of Leo countless times. They say that when someone appears in your dream you should go see them when you wake up. Now my sweet dream has finally come true. So Leo Vance, for the rest of our lives I'm all yours. Extra Leo's POV. The first time I saw Chloe Reed it was an ordinary day. She was wearing a tacky traditional dress, but her face was as fair as jade. That day she accidentally spilled wine on me. After being scolded by the dean, her face turned red and she looked like she was trying hard not to cry. In that moment I thought, I wonder what she looks like when she actually cries, but it was just a passing thought. Just a woman. Leo Vance could have any woman I wanted. I had already forgotten about her. But then not long after she came to me for help, since the little rabbit had willingly walked into the trap. Escaping was no longer up to her. It was just as I imagined. Chloe was beautiful when she cried. Of course she was even more beautiful at other times. Every time I saw her crying and begging for mercy, I felt a fire ignite inside me, making my whole body burn. I signed a contract with her, buying 5 years of her time. But after only a few months I grew greedy. I wanted to tie her down for a lifetime, to never let her go anywhere. But the Vances were not just any family. My parents would never accept her. They cared more about the family's interests than my feelings. So I had to plan step by step. I kept her hidden away from my social circles. Meanwhile, I slowly, bit by bit, took control of Vance Holdings. That day was my birthday. Ever since I became an adult, I had always celebrated with Connor and the guys. But that night, I couldn't wait to go home to hold her in my arms. The next day, my plan was to make things clear with Sophia, and then propose to Chloe. But I never expected Sophia to threaten to kill herself. I had no choice but to stay with her at the hotel. Of course, nothing happened that night. My assistant was there with me. I asked Sophia what she really wanted. Anything but marriage. I would do my best to give her. She said she wanted to visit our old university. So I took her to NYU. At the school gate, I thought of Chloe again. What was she doing right now? I didn't come home last night. Was she worried? But I never imagined that after just one night that damned woman would actually run away. At first I was furious. I decided that when she came back I would punish her severely. Later I started to get scared, afraid she would never come back. After that I was like a madman, searching for her all over the world. Sophia wouldn't give up on me and would show up at my door in the middle of the night. My parents and brothers also introduced me to many women. Women with better bodies and prettier faces than Chloe, but none of them were her. I didn't like any of them. I thought I would just have to live like this. She was just one woman. Would I, Leo Vance, die without her? But then she reappeared. Did she think I wouldn't recognize her just because she was wearing a mask? Pathetic. I would recognize her even if she returned to ash. I followed her for several days and then discovered she had a daughter. That perfect little doll looked exactly like me when I was a child, although I did a DNA test to shut my parents up. I knew in my heart she was my daughter. The woman I loved with our precious baby had finally come back. This time I would never let her escape again.